Okay, so hi, I'm back. I'm bringing you something different now that standard has changed, and I no longer have a standard deck really, because of some bannings of some expensive cards that I bought, and because there's a whole new different meta game, and it's expensive to get back into. So I may end up going back into standard at some point, but at the moment I'm not playing standard. So instead, I thought, what can I play? Because I don't just want to play Moment Basic all the time. I mean, it's fun, but you don't get to build decks, and I've actually I've started to like building decks since I've been playing Standard a lot. So I decided to go back to Pauper, which I've played a bit before, but not very long. And the deck I've always played in Pauper has been White Weenie because it's the one I've won the most with. I tried a whole bunch of decks when I first got in, and I was wasting a lot of money because I was building a deck that I mean, it seemed kind of cheap. You could get a deck for like $10, but then I would try it out and I would just lose again and again and again. And I kept doing that, and it adds up. But eventually, I found White Weenie, and I started winning with it because it made sense to me, and I could just play it in a way that got me some wins. So I don't claim to be any kind of an expert on Pauper. I know very little about, especially the metagame right now, because it's actually been a while since I played before. But I give it my best shot, and so I can't really explain the intricacies of what cards are supposed to do as well as I might be able to. Well, I might have been able to in Standard before, but I know basically what things are for. And this deck isn't just a copied deck list. This is a culmination of a bunch of White Weenie deck lists that I've been looking at and picked the cards that made sense and the cards that I know how to use best. So I'll go through them quickly. In one drops we got 4 Bone Splitters to equip up your little guys. These weren't in there when I played it before, but I've added in Squadron Hawks. And also Lean and Sky Hunters. So now there's a bunch of cheap guys flying in the air. The Bone Splitters actually get a lot of damage in by themselves. Well, not by themselves, but on one of these flies, which there's many of now. So they actually do very good. Benevolent Bodyguards, obviously saving your guys from targeted removal and occasionally pushing through damage in a monocolored deck, but that's a rare use of them. Journey to Nowheres is just removal. Skyfishes don't have as much synergy in this deck as they did in in the one I used to play. They had a lot of synergy in that one, but most of those cards have gone. In fact, the only thing they actually do good for you is returning Secluded Steps. If you play them early for mana, you can bounce them and then cycle them for a card. They used to, I used to play Aven Riftwatcher, and they could bounce that for life. I used to play the Kabira Crossroads, they could bounce that for life. But those things have sort of shifted out of the deck, and so Skyfishes aren't really as good as they could be, but they're a 2/3 for 2 mana. So they're still plenty good, especially if you have a Bone Splitter or a Benevolent Bodyguard. You don't even have to set yourself back in mana. You can just play it and start attacking. Lean and Sky Hunter, another 2-power flyer for 2 mana, which was never in the deck before. It's sort of shifted focus now. It's a very air-based beatdown deck with some ground-based long end, but the most of the small guys are all in the air. Order of Lightbearer is one of your mana sinks, and it is also very good against mono black control, although don't rely on it as like a beat all card, because they do play a lot of sacrifice effects. So if you just run it out there and think, oh, now I've won, I did that a few times when I started playing. I was like, I got my order and I just played it straight away, and I was like, well, now I've won because they can't do anything about it, and then they play a Gatekeeper, and then I have to sacrifice it. So be wary of that. And then Squadron Hawk is the flyers that lets you draw the flyers, so that's good. Prismatic Strands, most decks are a lot of decks in the metagame are monocolored, and even the ones that aren't still dealing damage. A lot of the ones that aren't are dealing damage all at once that you can prevent, like Cloudpost and Roiling Thunder, I think it's called. You can prevent that, but yeah, these things are very handy, and that's why I have 2 in the main deck. I don't. Some of the decks I've seen, a lot of the decks are playing in the main deck, but some of the decks I see have they're only prismatic strands in the sideboard, and I just thought they were better in the main deck because I'm always wanting to side them in. Well, I'm not always, but most decks I'm wanting to side them in because they're very good against most decks. Giving you that time that you need, especially because it works twice. That's the beauty of it, is that you don't even need to keep mana up for the second use. You just got this free fog, or well, even better than a fog because it messes up combat math horrendously because you get to deal damage to them and they don't. Then I've got some other mana sinks and also 1-drops. All my 4-drops are actually 1-drops. They're all suspend 1. 3 of them are mana sinks. For late game, you can pump the shades up a lot, and 2 of them are some extra flyers, and then Razor Golems, which get better as you get more lands, and you end up being able to play or you have 5 lands, you play 2 Razor Golems and like a Lin and Sky Hunter in 1 turn. It's pretty sweet. Lands are all planes. I have 21 lands, all planes, and 2 steps. I used to have 4 steps, but they actually do get very annoying to have in your opening hand. I mean, that's what they're for, is when you have no other lands, you need to play them, but then you can't play your 1-drops, and it messes up your curve a lot. So I brought it down to 2 so that when you're stuck with them, it still sucks a little bit, but you're never stuck with, or you're very, very rarely stuck with 2, which is basically just like awful for your curve. So the fact that you're never stuck with 2, they are pretty good, and drawing them late game is obviously a lot better than a plains. It's significantly better, and that's the reason they're in there. Onto the sideboard, there's got the 3rd prismatic strands, which I bring in a lot. Some of these, I mean, this sideboard as well is a combination of a bunch of sideboards that I've seen, and I saw the ones that made sense and I put them in there. So Crimson Acolytes and Obsidian Acolytes, they're obviously for the goblins and mono black control, or I mean that's what makes sense. You need the creature based mono that color decks. That seems to wreck those decks. But I actually haven't played with them, so I couldn't tell you from experience, just from speculation. Because I've only just bought these cards, so they only just went in there. Then this one's obviously for affinity. You can't bring that in against things that just have value artifacts that aren't affinity, because you actually have to have 2 target artifacts. So it's just useless if they just have 1 value artifact sitting there. You can't get it. But obviously, exiling 2 lands or exiling a 4/4 and a land is great. So that's why they're there for affinity. Holy Light is against the Storm decks. It kills the goblins, empty the warrens goblins. They also, a while when I started playing Pauper, a lot of Storm decks were grape shotting. Like I actually got grape shot a lot by Storm decks, and that's why I had Benevolent Unicorns in my sideboard. But I've been playing since then, and it's been a long time since I actually got grape shotted. So in the end, I took out the unicorns just because I haven't seen grape shots in a very long time. Most people just go for empty the warrens, so that's why I just have Holy Lights as Storm Answers. And then Standard Bearers actually took me a while when I saw them in some sideboard lists. They weren't in many, but they were in some, and I thought, that's interesting, because what would you actually bring that into Hose against? And then I figured it out, it's Infect, and not only Infect, but also they are Armadillo Cloak deck. Things where they're trying to pump their creatures, Standard Bearer is just a total hoser, and it destroys Infect because they don't have any removal. So all the things that it's redirecting are positive buffs, so it blanks half their cards, and they can't get rid of it. So that's why it's good in Infect, and then against the Armadillo Cloak deck, they actually need to kill it with one of their removal spells, or else they just can't play any of their auras. And so that's the deck, so I'm just going to jump in a daily and just see how it goes. So I'll see you guys then.